Well, for me, the action is the juice.
Identical.
Identical. Yes. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Gonna See My Friends. I'm Toby Ballinger. This is Steven Garcia. We're here hanging out. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite movies. This is for me and you, buddy. Maybe like track one, side one of our early years of our friendship, with just quotes. That scene that we just did right there. This is, of course, My Cousin Vinny, 1992. Joe Pesci, Marisa Tomei. An incredible movie.
Oh, yeah.
We've been talking about doing this since the jump. I think we're on episode number 48 of Gonna See My Friends.
Damn.
Yeah, man. They're stacking up. We're into the several dozens of shows. So
Yeah.
to everybody who's come along the journey with us, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Hope you guys are really enjoying it. There's a little pop up for those watching on the YouTube. Steven, your thoughts on when did you see this movie? This came out in 1992, so high school years.
18.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I saw this. Yeah, I think I saw it in the movie theater. I can't remember where exactly, but this was kind of a sleeper for me. This is one of those ones where I kind of was like, yeah, I'll check it out. It's got Joe Pesci in it. And and this is kind of where I wanted to kind of approach this discussion, which was
Good, shoot.
was kind of like in that heyday of movies where you had a lot of choices to go, right? When you would go see a movie or when you were watching TV, this is back when I watched like network TV, and you would see all the trailers, as the commercials for them, and you would have your pick of going to see movies. Like, oh, I want to see this one, and it was kind of like, let me get my notes up here because I have this like list of movies.
Pull your notes up.
Movies that came out, and this is just a little smidge, but it came out in 92. You had Batman Returns, Lethal Weapon 3, A Few Good Men, Basic Instinct, Home Alone 2, Aladdin, The Bodyguard, Sister Act, Unforgiven, Patriot Games, and Last of the Mohicans.
Nicely done.
And that's just the blockbusters and the big studios. And this was a time when movies would stay in the theaters for a couple months.
Yep.
So you would have, on a given weekend, you could be like, here's some comedies. Wayne's World. I'm going to go see Encino Man, which I did see.
Yes.
Death Becomes, or Beethoven, Boomerang, Honeymoon in Vegas, which I remember seeing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Reservoir Dogs came out, Singles, Candyman, Under Siege. You had all these like movies, right? And you just had just a choice. I would take the bus into Santa Rosa on a weekend, especially in the summers, and pay for a movie and then stay for like 2 or 3, and it was, I don't know, it was just a time when, do you agree? Like compared to now, Toby, like, do you see this many, like, it just seems like now the studios are more calculated on what they put out, and now you have a new movie maybe once a month that you maybe if you want to go see, but most of us are now, it's like, let's wait to come out on streaming, which comes out a month or two later, and it's not the same. And this movie, like My Cousin Vinny, came out in the midst of all this stuff, and this was just a regular time to go. That's my stuff.
You bring up a great point with just you listed probably 20 movies right there.
Yeah.
Most of those, like you talked about the blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
Most of those where you needed to go see those in the theater. The idea was to go see Under Siege in the theater.
Yeah.
And that's way lower on that list that you had just mentioned. Yeah. Comedies people who love comedies will go to see a comedy in the theater, but it's not one that you feel like but we need to get in there. But there was a Batman in there that I think you mentioned.
Batman 2, yeah.
A Few Good Men was an all-star cast where that, again, that's another courtroom drama, which we'll talk about as well. My Cousin Vinny on that list, if you had to pick, is not going to be in the top 20 of movies that you need to go see on a whole wall in front of you. And you're right. There were so many movies at the time that Santa Rosa, you bring up Santa Rosa, you came in from Healdsburg. I came in from, let's see, 92. So I'm in Forestville. I'm coming in from Fort. There's no movie theater in Forestville, so I'm going to. But Santa Rosa had like 10 movie theaters at the time. There was UA4, UA5,
UA
6. There's, I mean, most of those are gone now because there's like maybe 12 movies in the theater to see right now.
Yeah,
Right now,
exactly.
during this time of the year where there should be endless movies like Christmas time, holidays. We'd always get 3-4 holiday movies that would Christmas movies that come out. I mean, Home Alone 2 comes out in 1992, I believe. So yeah, a great point as far as in order to pick, you can't, I mean, it's expensive to go to the movie every single weekend unless you're doing what you're doing,
right?
And that is go to the movie and then sneak into another one and hope nobody catches you going and just seeing a triple feature for $5.
Yeah, right.
You know, that's a little shady, but we all did it. I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, nobody's really checking tickets.
Yeah, I mean, the summers when I would come back from, especially Sacramento. So this is like mid '80s, but you would go see. And I think one time I was really sweating it, and somebody came in and they were just whatever. And this is how kind of the person I was, but I was like, I tried to walk, around him, and I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't pay for this movie. And he's like, I don't care.
Right. Nice. That's great.
I was like, oh, okay. But I was still, I was so afraid of getting caught. That's the kind of, but anyways, yeah. So, Santa Rosa had UA5, UA6.
Yep.
It had, what else did it have? It had the Cottingtown.
Yep.
And then it had, I think I had one other one. I can't remember what it was, but the one over on Summerfield, that's what it had. And so you just had, and in '85, Back to the Future came out in July, and it was still in the movie theaters at this time in November, and E.T. got re-released. And so you're right. Like, there was this time when the movies were a place where you could go. It was affordable, and it was kind of for me, it was kind of like a getaway. It was this thing of, I was an athlete too, but I was just more of an introvert, and I took solace and I could just watch movies by myself. I loved it.
Yeah.
Because that's what I did at home anyways, And so,
right.
Yeah, it was just a good time for going out and seeing movies like this, because Pesci he knocked out a lot of movies in this time frame as well.
Yes.
In the '90s, late '80s, early '90s. So, I mean, it was just a good time to go see movies. And it's such a, I don't think people nowadays can appreciate, they see a movie come out and they're like, well, yeah, let's go see it. Or no, let's just wait till it comes out in a month and we can rent it at home for $30 or whatever it is now.
Right. And you can almost do it almost from when it drops.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them, I'm actually surprised when there are movies that look like that it should just, we're getting so desensitized to the idea that you can just on Friday turn on Netflix and they'll drop 10 new movies for you.
Yeah.
That would be some of the stuff you're like, why didn't this come out in the theater?
Right.
And the idea is people aren't going to go to the theater. If you can drop $20 by pushing a button in your own house, you can push pause and go pee whenever you want. You can go get a snack. You don't have to worry about sneaking past somebody in the dark and then trying to work your way down. I mean, the theaters are much more comfortable now than they ever were. It's like a treat. In the summertime, Christina and I will go do a double feature on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And we'll, in between the movies, we'll run out, we'll get a, bite to eat, couple cocktails, come back in for the second feature. We'll do that. I mean, that's a lot of fun. That's a fun day. But you could just push play and have it streaming and watch it multiple times over the next 48 hours, right? You can rent it and you got 2 days to watch it.
Yeah.
So we're definitely a lot more spoiled when it comes to the comfort and our on-demand lifestyle that we live now.
Well, I think COVID had a big part of that.
Yeah.
I think COVID introduced the idea that, which I think introverts have always known, but other people have it, is that you're comfortable in your house and you can enjoy things from the comfort of your house. And I think the whole thing of like, oh, nobody wants to work anymore, and it's like, well, no, it's not that. It's just more of like the comfort of home. If you could do that at home, I'd rather do it from home. So
it's an introvert's paradise. I mean, we lost a lot of good people during COVID. I mean, it was a, in a lot of ways, this was, the 100-year plague that they talk about. I certainly took it seriously. I know you did too. I wore the mask when I was supposed to, didn't make a big deal about it. It's not that, wasn't that big a deal for me. I know a lot of people were upset about it. We don't want to polarize the audience here. That's not what we're here to talk about. But yeah, but we created our own comforts at home. Christina and I, as a good example of that, we bought all new furniture for our upstairs room because we're like, I don't see this going away in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we ordered like new Lazy Boy furniture. We spent money on how do we make home more comfortable, because it's probably going to be me and you and the cats in this place for a year, maybe more, and until people really started, getting comfortable with, is this over yet? Blah, blah, blah. And the world did move on.
Mm-hmm.
But it is great to get back in the theater. Don't get me wrong. It's great to get back in the theater and enjoy the theater experience. And now you got a reclining chair and a little table that swivels in front of you and a glass of beer. Come on.
Well, back in the day, it was just like the equivalent of a folding chair,
Yes,
and you had them right next to each
uncomfortable and gross. It was sticky and just full of farts. I mean, oh God, remember how bad they were?
And you would have like kind of questionable people sitting next to you sometimes. I remember.
I remember right seeing. Next to you.
I remember seeing Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man movie in the theaters, but I was in the city. And it was packed. It was sold out. So like there was not an empty seat. And I sat next to this woman who had the shortest skirt on. And they're obviously on a date with this dude that were sitting next to me.
Oh boy.
And it was, I don't want to describe what went on, but it was
I think we know what was going on.
Yeah. And so it was like,
girl, do you mind?
Can you get a room? I mean, it was horrible. So that was the kind of thing you had to deal with in kind of the bigger auditoriums, at least. Anyways.
Sure. Yeah. Well, let's talk about My Cousin Vinny. This is a rated R movie. It runs 2 hours on the dot, 7.6 on IMDb, 85% certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Wow. And the audience has it at 80%. So
nice.
And I think, would you agree with me that rewatching it, I own this, so I can watch it anytime on any of my devices. And it's one of those where you just take your little, again, with the streaming, just take your little cursor and just move the little guy and then drop it and just watch from that point on. It's so watchable. There isn't really a slow part to this movie. It's just a fun 2 hours goes by really, really fast in this movie.
Yeah, I always thought it was like an hour 40, but it's
I did too.
2 hours.
I didn't realize it was 2 hours. Yeah.
For me, I think the beginning part of it is kind of, it's not slow. I'm not going to say any part of this is slow, but it's the wind up to the court scenes, because the last 30 minutes of this movie is like, it's I think the idea of, having this guy kind of win this trial and the work up to it, I think is kind of the thing, because I never realized until I was watching it last night that I never really realized that it was the lack of sleep that this guy had. Because because the whole thing that kind of linchpins this whole movie is this guy is always getting woken up.
That's right.
One of the first ones where she's like, "Do you want to go to sleep?" And he's like, "Yeah." And they turn off the light and it's 3 a.m. I don't know why I never caught that, but then he gets woken up like an hour later. And this happens like 5 days in a row. So
that's right. Everywhere he goes in town, they move like 4 or 5 times, and he can't get a break. Right, even when he goes out to Trotter's cabin in the woods with the owl. You're absolutely right. The poor guy, he's got no sleep.
Yeah.
It's let's see. It was released on March 13th, 1992. The budget was $11 million. It made $64 million worldwide. So to your point, you would like to see more. I think that especially 20th Century Fox, was it 20th Century who did this? I didn't write that part down.
Yeah.
They would have probably liked to have seen a lot more money come in. But the fact that Marisa Tomei in 1993 Oscars wins for Best Supporting Actress or Best Actress, is what I think caught everybody by surprise. And then you had this whole resurgence of people going, "Wait, what? That comedy with the guy from Goodfellas? And Karate Kid. Like, people were confused, and especially considering the competition she had for that Oscar. I mean, that class that she won in, there's some heavy hitters in there, and everyone was like, wait, what? There was a little bit of controversy. Somebody created a rumor that when Jack Palance read the winner of that he had read the wrong name, and that really hurt her feelings. And I think that as we talk about this, and we talk about just how important Marisa Tomei's Mona Lisa Vito's character is to this movie, that she 100% deserves it. She is incredible. Her importance to this movie can't be overstated. It's right. Incredible. It's an incredible performance. Let's talk about it. It's directed by Jonathan Lynn. He directed Clue. He directed The Distinguished Gentleman, and he directed The Whole Nine Yards with Bruce Willis and Matthew Perry. Other than that, Clue obviously really comes out. Distinguished Gentleman comes out in '92, so he was busy. Love Distinguished Gentleman. That's one that we need to revisit. The one where Eddie Murphy.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah,
that's with Eddie Murphy, right?
Yes, he's a freshman, a congressman, and they talk about how, your first couple of years when you first come into Congress, which anybody can run for as long as you're 25 years or over, you can run for Congress. Go ahead. There's 435 seats open. You can do every 2 years. That's a fun one. That one kind of gets overlooked. It was written by Dale Lautner, who wrote Ruthless People, Blind Date, and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. So all three of those movies are amazing. Blind Date, of course, with
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis. So a little Bruce Willis peppered in here. Like we said, it stars Joe Pesci and Marisa Tomei. Ralph Macchio, who was probably only really known as being the Karate Kid, Daniel Russo. It's good to see him in an adult role, I feel. Instead of being the kid, he's now an adult. He's now being tried for murder. I mean, talk about getting thrown into it, right? And Mitchell Whitfield, who's his buddy Stan Rothenstein. The great Fred Gwynn as Judge Chamberlain Howler, which this would be his last acting role before he passed away. Lane Smith as Jim Trotter III. He's a great character actor. Identical.
He's one of those guys that's been in a lot of movies.
He's a that guy.
Yeah.
He's one of those that guys where you're like, he's been in a million things. He's been gone for 20 years now, which I didn't realize. He died in 2005, and I thought that guy. I had no idea that one.
I thought he passed away like in 16 or something, 2016. Oh wow, 5.
I think it was quite a while ago.
Yeah.
He was great in both Red Dawn, which you and I both love, as the mayor.
Yeah.
And in Son-in-Law, which is maybe my favorite Pauly Shore movie.
I never saw Son-in-Law. I saw Encino Man. Encino Man was my jam, but yeah.
He is a great, like, this father figure kind of, he can be kind of scary at times, but he's great as this Jim Trotter III, which I love that they gave him this guy. They gave him the third. Like, it has no importance to the movie at all. I just kind of like that nice touch. And it doesn't say Jim Trotter III. It's on his plaque on his when Vinny's in his office and they're talking about how did you become a lawyer? How did you become a lawyer? Bruce McGill. Here's another that guy who's Sheriff Farley. Yeah. So he's always great. His IMDb credits are, I've got it right here in front of me. 169 acting credits for Bruce McGill. He's been in
I loved him. I knew
everything.
him. Yeah, I knew him from MacGyver. That's
exactly right.
He was always on MacGyver as
awesome.
MacGyver's
Good
friend
knowledge.
Who would always get him MacGyver into trouble, and then MacGyver would have to get him out of trouble. Yeah, so
that's right. Great. He's great as Sheriff Farley. Chris Ellis is JT, who they're picking a fight with who Marisa Tomei at one point. Because they're almost out of traveler's checks, she tries to hustle the money to keep bailing Vinny out of prison for contempt of court.
Yeah,
and she gets stiffed, and that's JT's character. I got your money, old Yankee boy. And maybe the nice touch in this movie is that Stan decides to get his own counsel because he doesn't trust Vinny. So he gets a public defender played by Austin Pendleton as the attorney John Gibbons, who incredible performance in this.
Let me ask you this question. Is it a stutter or is he stammering? I would say he's a stammering.
Oh, that's a great.
I think it's more of a stammer than it is
Yes,
to
it is.
stutter.
He's totally nervous.
Yeah, and I think I don't know about that community, like what they consider stuttering or stammering, if there's a difference, but
Yeah.
I have a family relative that he's older, so he's starting to stammer a lot, and or that's what I call it, because he's like that like he'll start something like 3 or 4 times. Hey, have you seen? Hey, have you seen? Hey, have you seen? So it's like this thing of like he can't get it. It's getting stuck in the groove. You got to like,
Oh
So I
no.
don't know. That's what I always thought he stammered.
That's a great question. I never really thought about it. I just think it's an anxiety attack where the guy's he's so
Regardless,
nervous that, I mean, he's fine when they're one-on-one. He seems like he's got a good, he understands, he's kind of relaxed. He's like, hey, we're gonna take care of you. And then as soon as, ladies and gentlemen, and the room is all just aghast. Oh my God. You're just like, dude, this poor guy.
Dude, the sound that he makes when he's just so frustrated he can't get it out. He's just like,
right.
And then when he walks away, he's all to the judge. He's like,
oh, he's just trying to fight his way through it. The poor guy. Austin Pendleton, so great.
And he said he got a lot of hate from the stuttering community. And
did he?
Yeah, and he thinks that it kind of typecast him as the stutterer, so it didn't. But I'd seen him in a lot of things. I saw him in Perfect Strangers, like a couple of episodes. Okay. See, what else did I see him? I saw him in a couple of things, and then when I saw him in this movie, I'm like, oh, it was L.A. Law. That's where I saw him. He was in an episode of L.A. Law, and he was like this mean guy that was like, what did he portray? I think it was like he was like a narcissist or something.
Okay.
And it was a divorce trial or something, and he was in that. And so when I saw him on the big screen, I was like, oh, he's stepping up.
Nice. Yes. Yeah. Who he reminds me of is that guy is Stephen Tobolowsky, who played Ned Ryerson in Groundhog Day, who's been in so many things, but and Austin Pendleton really kind of reminds me of that. He's to a lesser extent, because I think Tobolowsky's got his acting credits go on and on and on and on. But so incredible cast. It's so great to see. Let's just think about this. So that group, there's your core cast, right?
Yeah.
And we've posed this question before. I think this movie works because of this particular cast of the casting. Whoever did the casting on this nailed it. You could put I don't know if you could put other people in these roles and have it work as well as this does, to the point where stands the test of time. It is really a timeless movie in that it's just a case. It has nothing to do with really that much technology. It's not like this could have been solved by if they only had cell phones, none of this would have happened. It's just straight up a story. It could be told at any moment in time.
Well,
with these characters.
It was kind of a throwback too, for me, to a Three's Company episode.
Yes.
You remember in Three's Company, a lot of it was this kind of misunderstanding.
Yes.
I remember one episode comes to mind when Mr. Furley walks in and Janet and Jack are in the bedroom and they're trying to get dressed. That's all they're doing is, and Janet, and he comes in, he hears Janet going, Jack going, give him my pants. And Janet's like, I'm not done yet. And he's just like,
yeah, right.
It's this miscommunication thing. And I think that happens. That's kind of the setup of this whole movie.
That's
this
exactly.
idea. Is this idea
that agree more.
that they think they're getting arrested for stealing a can of tuna.
That's right.
And it's a murder. It's a murder rap. And you're
right.
You're our guys. And it's funny the way that it sets up too, is when they get their phone call and they're like, no, Ma, no, it's not. No, it's murder. No, Ma, we didn't do it. Right. It's in the South. You know how it is. They're all, corrupt down here, and they all sleep with their sisters or whatever.
You're right. The whole police station looks at them. Some of them are. Some of them do. Stan,
Yeah.
the character Stan Rothenstein is probably more of a minor character. Mitchell Whitfield plays his buddy Stan, who plays this kind of neurotic best friend to Ralph Macchio, who does a great job on that. You hear one side of the conversation, like you were just saying on the phone call. He does it perfect. You could tell Ma is freaking out on the other end of the phone. It really
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
through on that. And Stan is just, he's got that kind of neuroses where, and couldn't have been played any better by Stan than that. I just think that this cast, I wouldn't want to switch anybody out
Yeah.
with anybody else in this at all.
Well, to your point about the casting, they were briefly considering Matthew Broderick for the role, Corey
Oh,
Feldman, and Fisher Stevens. And for Bill, for Ralph Macchio's role, it was Christian Slater,
okay.
not Schlater,
Later.
Jason Priestley, and Sean Astin. And for for Vince,
Sean Astin.
for Joe Pesci's role, they were considering Danny DeVito, or they wanted Danny DeVito, John Turturro, and
Okay.
Andrew Dice Clay and Jim Belushi. Now,
Oh, dear God.
Andrew Dice Clay apparently came in for a reading and was rude to one of the casting agents. And so immediately they were like, "Can we get this guy's name off?" And so he was scratched. I don't think this movie is so different with Andrew Dice Clay in it. It's just not. Yeah. So
I mean, he was great in Ford Fairlane. This was a time when Andrew Dice Clay was in a lot of movies.
well,
So
this is yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I understand, but but to get Joe Pesci after coming off his Oscar win in Goodfellas, it's 2 years removed. And you had even mentioned the run that he goes on here. There's about a 5-year window that if this we would probably not remember this movie at all if it was anybody other than Joe Pesci. And
Oh,
of the movies that we're about to talk about, this is the only comedy, really. Well, no, Home Alone's a comedy, but it's also a
kids
Christmas
movie.
comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Christmas
it's a
too.
kids movie.
Yeah.
Look at this run that he goes on. So let's start with 1989 Lethal Weapon 2, where he comes in as Leo
Yeah.
Getz. Okay.
Yeah.
Steals the show in Lethal Weapon 2, right? Lethal
Yeah.
Weapon was a blockbuster hit, and how are you going to improve on that? You improve on it by putting Leo Getz. Whatever Leo wants, Leo gets.
Right.
And he completely steals the show.
Hot take.
Go ahead.
Lethal Weapon 2, extremely overrated. All right, I'll leave it there. Leave it there.
Okay, well, he's the best part of the movie.
No. Yeah. He is, definitely.
I would agree 100%. After Lethal Weapon 2 is Goodfellas. Of course, he plays Tommy DeVito in Goodfellas. Then later on that year, it's Home Alone as Harry, the wet bandit. Then it's JFK, and he plays David Ferry in JFK. Yeah. Then it's My Cousin Vinny. Then Lethal Weapon 3. Okay. Then Home Alone 2, and then A Bronx Tale. Dude, that's a career for some people. For most people, that would be a career. That's a 4-year run for him.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the legendary run because, after eight heads in a duffel bag or whatever that one was the early 2000s, maybe.
Yes,
he retires. He retires from acting. So I think that this whole run here is the peak Joe Pesci because he's taken on all these roles and he's on a roll. And I feel like I'm not an actor, but I feel like as with anything, when you're in that zone, you're just taking, oh yeah, I'll do this, I do this, and you kind of get into your zone there and you're doing all these movies. This is kind of like seeing somebody. This is like seeing Pacino in the 70s or something, or the early 80s, or him in the Pesci in the early 80s when he was doing Taxi Driver. It's just you're watching excellence. You're watching somebody kind of at the top of their game, taking any kind of, because he does that movie With Honors, which I'd never seen. I've never seen it since. But it's, again, it goes back to my original thesis of like, this was the time when studios had all this. I don't know if they had so much money, but it seemed like there were just so much. Well, we got this storyline around here. You go make this. And it was just a kind of not filler, but it was this kind of thing where there was all this room and you could just make a movie and then put it out and then, okay, that's okay. All right, try this one, and Pesci kind of took advantage of that. And I don't know if he knew, but it was that time when studios just had this this kind of capital to just, here you go, here you go, oh, here you go, and he took advantage of it, and it's great. It's, it's sad too in a sense because you will never get back to that time.
Yeah,
Of having all of this, because like the the list that I read off earlier, these are movies that people should go see, even if they weren't big blockbusters or whatever. But these are movies that now are being talked about in the sense of what you're saying about like a specific person. You look at their catalog and you're like, yeah, you got to see this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And oh yeah, don't forget that one. And so I mean, it's
we feel
that's
a
all
little
I gotta
bit
say
like
about that.
we feel a little like we're working at Championship Vinyl and somebody walks into our record store and, what? Don't let anybody know you don't have Blonde on Blonde. It's gonna be okay.
It is. Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's it's this idea now I'm seeing in this kind of TikTok, Instagram reel kind of generation. They're using all this older music to do their scenes on TikTok or Instagram, and I'm like, see, like this is what's influencing, or this is what drives, I think, the culture of, like, when you say music. I'm a musician. I love music. What drives that is that all the music that's coming out in the days that we were young and that we were kind of not taken for granted, but it was just everyday kind of noise of like, oh yeah, I remember that's number. Yeah, that was on the radio. This and that. That was on that movie. And now this generation is kind of rediscovering all that and going, wow, this is really great. I was on TikTok scrolling the other day, and there's this dude. He must be in his late teens, maybe. He looks really young, but he's playing, what was he playing? He was playing 10 Years Gone, I think.
Wow.
And perfectly. And it was amazing. Oh, and he played that one. I also saw him play Ventura Highway on acoustic. And it's just like, see, this is what drives people to become musicians and stuff. And it may start with Taylor Swift and all this other stuff, but then as they get deeper, it's all this other stuff that we kind of grew up on. So that's good to see.
I think you're into. We did that too, I think, as well. Like when we listened to a lot of, rap was getting really big in the late 80s, early 90s, and we're like, dude, this. I love this song. And your parents are all, dude, that's Aerosmith, or that's 1975. You're all, what? They're, like the Beastie Boys sampled nothing but Led Zeppelin on their first album, and it was going on. And you're like, wow, now I want to go back and listen to that song. You go back and listen to that song, and all of a sudden you're a Led Zeppelin fan. So I get it. They were.
Yeah. Oh, I wasn't disparaging them. I'm just saying, that's
I know.
Kind of what drives. Yeah.
It's good to see that. What troubles me a little bit is that some of the fashion that we were hoping would stay away is coming back. And I'm not talking about Crocs and not necessarily the mullet. The mullet is neither here nor there with me, but the white New Balance shoes, guys, we don't need to be bringing them back. Come on, leave it for the boomer dads, please. I'm begging you.
That's all we got left.
That's all we got left. Damn it! The price went up triple the amount for my shoes that I used to buy at Payless Shoe Source. Damn you! They were $25. Now they're $80. Well, let's get into it here. Okay. Here's your storyline for those who have not seen this 3-year-old movie. Bill Gambini and Stanley Rothenstein are two friends from New York University, just received scholarships to UCLA. Not sure if that part of it was fleshed out in the movie. They're just on the road when it starts out, and they're driving their convertible and just bebopping down the road, as my buddy used to say. They're on a road trip from New York to UCLA, Los Angeles, and they decide they're going to see the South on their way through. Makes sense. They get to Alabama. They stop at a local convenience store to pick up a few snacks, but no sooner than they leave the store, they're arrested. They thought that they were arrested for shoplifting because Bill he's got his hands full, and he puts the can of tuna in his pocket and forgets to pay for it. So they were shoplifting, didn't mean to shoplift, whatever. It turns out they've been arrested for murder. Worse, they're facing execution for this crime. Bill and Stan do not have enough money to pay for a lawyer. So the good news is that Bill has a lawyer in the family, his cousin, Vincent LaGuardia Gambini. Can we just say that we need a new category, or we need to start tracking this when we do these movies?
Okay.
We need a category of, do they say the name of the movie in the movie?
All right.
Because we used to do this thing where if they say it, you got to drink. We used to have that drinking game. Oh, yeah. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
We got to do that. So yes, right in the beginning scene. So they get arrested. Bill's being interrogated by Sheriff Farley, and he's all, "At what point did you shoot the clerk?" He's all, "I shot the clerk." Yes.
I shot the clerk?
When did you shoot the clerk? I shot the clerk. So on paper, this looks like a confession, right? In which he reads to the judge to find out, is there enough evidence for in the arraignment? Is there enough evidence to go forward with the trial? And we're going to get into the lawyering of. I'm not a lawyer, but I've been working for law firms for the last 22 years. I've worked with a lot of lawyers. I do understand courtroom procedure to an extent, to the point where I know that this movie is actually shown in law school. There's still to this day, the American Bar Association publishes the ABA Journal. It comes out every year. It's a industry mag. If you're not an attorney, you never heard of it. Most attorneys choose, to read it or not read it. They've put out their list of the top 25 legal movies, not courtroom dramas necessarily, but legal movies. And My Cousin Vinny is number 3 from this is lawyers watching lawyers on or legally. Let me just tell you this. Let's take a look at that. So this is the ABA's number 3, top 25, number 3. Would you take a guess at what number 1 and number 2 are? Steve, your thoughts?
Number 1 and number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Let's see. Hold up.
Yep.
Is
you know every one of these movies? Okay. You know every one of them. Yes.
Is the Rainmaker up there?
No.
No. Okay. Are they 80s, 90s movies, or are they
number 1 and number 2 are both black and white movies? Yeah.
Okay, cool. To Kill a Mockingbird, is that one?
To Kill a Mockingbird is number 1. Well done, 1962.
And 12 Angry Men?
12 Angry Men is number 2. Well done, dude. 1957's 12 Angry Men. Both movies were nominated for Best Picture.
Oh, wow.
Neither of them won. To Kill a Mockingbird was nominated for Best Picture, lost to Lawrence of Arabia. And 12 Angry Men, 1957's 12 Angry Men was nominated for Best Picture, and Bridge Over the River Kwai won for Best Picture. So up against, what are you going to do, right?
Right.
Filling out the rest of this of movies that you and I have talked about, Aaron Brockovich ranked number 9, was nominated for Best Picture. A Few Good Men was ranked number 14, nominated for Best Picture. And so in your top 14, this is the only movie of the top 14 ABA legal movies that was not nominated for Best Picture. What a crime.
I want to see a movie, because we know people that are lawyers and that trial lawyers, and specifically. Yeah. I wanted to write a movie that's so genuinely real in terms of how the courtroom situation is, because I know that lawyers don't walk freely around and get up into the thing and I want the truth. It's more
sometimes
of like
they do.
See, I don't know.
Yes.
But I want to see one that's just like very okay, Your Honor, with the microphone, and okay, let's get the technician in here. Excuse me, 1 minute, Your Honor. Yeah. No, plug that in.
Yeah, a lot of sidebar. Okay. There's a lot of it's not nearly as it's
dramatic.
You're right. They're actually really, really boring oftentimes. I don't know if you've ever
That's why I think they spruce them up. Yeah.
Well, you have to spruce them up, man. And you're sitting in there all day. So you're absolutely right. You can get an account with court. What is the name of the
Court TV?
not court TV. It's you have to. Well, I can watch them. A lot of the trials are on CCTV now, and you can watch civil trials and criminal trials. I'm on the civil side, so I can't really. My aunt was a criminal judge, a Superior Court judge for Sonoma County, retired now. That was all criminal. Those were criminal cases. I've been in the civil side, personal injury side. So it's most of what we're looking at. So again, look at the top three here. What did I say? It was To Kill a Mockingbird. This is a murder trial. 12 Angry Men. This is a murder trial. And My Cousin Vinny is a murder trial. I mean, that's where you're going to get. I mean, the stakes couldn't be higher.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Right?
I mean, you got to go murder. You got to go murder.
Aaron Brockovich is a civil case. And it's not. Is Aaron Brockovich a courtroom drama? It's not a courtroom drama. There's only 2 courtroom scenes in the entire 2+ hours. They start with pretrial stuff, and then it jumps all the way to the end where she's driving around telling people what the settlement, the PG&E. So it's a legal drama. That's what we're talking about. 12 Angry Men isn't a courtroom drama. They're never in a courtroom. They're in the jury room. It's all one act, isn't it? It was a one act.
I haven't seen it in so long.
Okay,
I haven't seen it. Probably since the 80s.
When you think there's a difference between courtroom drama and a legal drama, and this is could be a drama, but it's a dramedy. Would you call it a dramedy? My Cousin Vinny, it's funny. Yeah.
I would think
the stakes are high.
The stakes are high, but there's some comedy in there, especially the banter between Mona Lisa and Vincent Vinny. You know, I think that carries, or that kind of counterbalances all the, if you want to say, serious stuff in the thing, because a lot of the serious stuff is just basically him just investigating the case. And when he finally gets the files from the other,
from Trotter,
the DA, from Trotter.
Yeah.
That's when the movie, I think, starts to take off. Up until then, it's this kind of, it's just scenes of him bumbling and
yes,
you're kind of going like, okay, is this just going to be it? And at some point you have to kind of, I don't know, the judge is kind of got to lighten up a little bit and wasted everybody's time by sending him to jail, but that's what makes the movie funny. And so, but once he gets to investigating his side of the case, I think that's where the movie kind of just takes off. And then it when you get to the trial scenes, that's when that's gold. That's just, So
he doesn't understand. They make a good point. This is written by somebody who wrote this movie in law school. That's why there's so much kind of truth to it. It's an original. This isn't based on a book that this is an original work where he just thought he'd heard that you take the bar, and if you fail it, you got to come back after 6 months and take it again. He heard of somebody who had failed it and passed the bar on the 13th try, and he went, holy shit. Can you imagine if this guy, he just thought, wow. So 13 times it took. Maybe he's just not a very good test taker. Could be a hell of a lawyer, but just not a very good test taker. But 13 times. And so he went, what happens if he finally passes the bar and he gets a client and it's a murder trial? That's where then he just started writing, and this is what he came up with. It's phenomenal, right? Because in this case, it's well, for me, 6 time was a chime. And so he was just like, oh, well, I'm going to make him family. So otherwise, why would you ever hire this guy? Well, it's family, and he's going to do it pro bono. And so the idea that he's just going to walk into the courtroom and explain what's going on during the arraignment. He's all, so what are you saying? Are they guilty or not guilty? He's all, no, I'm trying to explain to you. They just thought they're being for shoplifting a can of tuna. So like he doesn't have no idea what procedure. He's all, it seems like you just want to jump over the arraignment, skip over the trial, and go right for a dismissal. And so if you're unfamiliar with how procedure works, the law, legal procedures, this is a really good. This is like they said, the ABA said, this is perfect for procedurally walking you through first day of law school. It's great. There is some problematic stuff with who is being allowed to testify at certain times, and we can talk about that because believe me, I've written it all down here. We can definitely get into it, but procedurally, this is accurate.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of that too.
Okay.
One of the things about legally what they love is once Vinny under Mona Lisa tells him he's like, listen, there's nothing I can do. You're an Alabama. You're killed a good old boy. Case is definitely going to trial. And so he kind of feels like, boy, I wish I could see his files. I wish I knew what he was doing. And so they go on the little hunting trip, right? He's like, hey, she's like, yeah, it's impressive finessing. And she's all something that I think of every single week is the line in here where she's like, don't you want to know why he gave you the files? He's like, I just told you why. She's like, it's called disclosure, you dickhead. He has to show you everything or else it could be a mistrial. It's so good. I deal with disclosures all the time as the support staff. I got to read what's being disclosed by defendants in our cases, and every time I see something come up with this, it's called disclosure, you dickhead.
Well, I think that dynamic is what is it's on it. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It carries the movie is that kind of relationship, that dynamic where they're always bickering. Do you know anybody that's like that? You don't have to say names, but do you have do you know people that are just in a relationship and they're always bickering?
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly not as much anymore, but there was always just, people that were always cross-examining each other. It's uncomfortable to be around.
Yeah, it is. It is. I've been in those too. So it's when you're in them, you're just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't in very many of those. So, I mean, you kind of have your moments, but not that this is their dynamic. They've been together she says they'll get married after he wins his first case, and he's failed the bar 6 times. They've been in this relationship a long time. And meanwhile, her baby sister, her younger sister's got, her biological clock is ticking like this. She's been waiting a long time. I ain't never getting married.
Yeah. That's another thing too about this movie that wouldn't fly today is the age difference in real life between Joe Pesci and what's her name?
Marisa Tomei.
Yeah, Marisa Tomei.
What is it? 20?
Well, he was like 48 and she was 24, I think it was. Something like that.
Okay.
And to me, I mean but I think especially in big cities, I think you would see probably something like that. Not to that extent, but I think you see a lot more of that in big cities than you do in I don't know. Maybe I'm full of shit. I don't know, but it's a huge gap, and
it's a big gap, and you're right. You'd think that this is maybe his second wife.
Yeah, I don't know because I don't know if that's what he's supposed to be in the movie as well. Is that old? But yeah, you just wouldn't fly today. I mean,
well, the wig is certainly helping. The hairpiece that he's got on is certainly doing a lot of heavy lifting in this one. Let's talk about this trip that they take.
Oh yeah,
we're driving a 1964 Buick Skylark. We're going to drive from New York City to Los Angeles. Okay.
Go through the South.
Why don't we, for no reason other than when else are we going to get a chance to do this, go all the way down to Alabama on the way through? So the trip from LA to New York to LA, if you just did a straight shot, it's about 2,800 miles. It's about 40 hours of drive time. Going through, let's call it Montgomery, Alabama. I just picked something right in the middle. Adds about 400 miles onto the trip and about 5 hours. But that's, and that might not sound like a whole lot, but it's definitely a more scenic route instead of just blasting across on Interstate 80 through the prairie lands. You're going to have more scenic trip. But in a 1964 Buick Skylark that gets on average 10 to 15 miles a gallon, driving 3,200 miles. First of all, so they go through about 208 gallons of gas on this trip. And the Buick Skylark gets, we'll call it 15 miles a gallon since they're all highway miles. Gas in 1992 is $1.19 on average going coast to coast. They spend $250 on gas. Now doesn't sound like a whole lot. You're like, wow, that's cheaper than flying, right? Even in 1992, probably be cheaper than flying. And you have your car with you. But they got to stop for gas 10 times on the way out there in this boat of a car. This would have been a fun road trip, especially with the top down and you and your best friend just whee. But they're obviously they don't have a lot of money because they're comparing this tuna can is 3 cents less than this tuna can. Your thoughts on that? Would you do this road trip?
Well, I did a road trip like that. I went from San Francisco to New York, and we took a southern route. And
you did. So you did this trip.
Yeah.
Wow.
Basically, yeah. But it was supposed to be, it was on a bus. It was called the Green Tortoise. You remember those? Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. So I did that. in 97. I think it was like $400 or something.
No shit. So let's get into the legal side here just real quickly.
Sure.
Some of the things that the attorneys love about this is the procedure, and specifically about Vinny's ability to impeach the 3 eyewitnesses that the prosecution has brought. Once Vinny finds out from Marisa Tomei, from Mona Lisa, that he can talk to the witnesses, he goes and interviews all 3 of their witnesses, Mr. Tipton, Mr. Crane, and Miss Riley, right? And he goes and he looks at everything. He goes and sees these are 3 eyewitnesses. Mr. Tipton says he was making breakfast, and his timeline was there wasn't enough time because I was making breakfast. I know that it takes 5 minutes to make breakfast, and then he asked him, well, what'd you have? So this is something that the attorneys really point out. Drill down on, once they're on the stand, drill down onto, let's go step by step. And it says it only takes 5 minutes. What'd you have? Well, I made grits. Oh yeah, you like them regular, creamy, or al dente? Like, he really disarms this. He's like talking about how he had never heard of a grit until the first day having breakfast. At the diner, and he asked the guy at the diner. He's all, "What is a grit?" Yeah, it's made from corn. You got to boil it for 15, 20 minutes, and so other than that, he'd never heard of it. Thank God he went into that diner. So he was like, instant grits. And Mr. Tipton says, no Southern man takes it. I take pride in my grits. Okay, so how could it take you 5 minutes when it takes the rest of the grit eating community 20 minutes?
20 minutes. I guess I'm a fast cook.
That's it. I'm sorry. I was all the way over here. I couldn't hear you.
You're a fast cook. That's it.
So he's impeached that witness. Now the timeline's shot for that witness. So now they're down to 2 other witnesses. Mr. Crane said he saw it out the window. So he goes into Mr. Crane's house. He's been in Mr. Crane's house. He's looking and he's all, he sees that the window's never been washed. It's a filthy screen, and there's trees in the way between that and the sack of suds where the crime scene took place. So he asked Mr. Tipton. I love this dialogue that he's where's the Mr. Tipton?
A screen?
So
that's
he shows up. Yeah, a screen.
When you know it, just yell it out.
That's it. He's on one of these really big things right in the middle of your view of the sack of the suds in your kitchen window. What do we call these big things? Trees. Trees. That's right. Don't be afraid. Just shout them right out when you know them. Talking to him like he's a 4-year-old, dude. And this guy is kind of dumb. You can kind of tell. Mr. Crane's kind of dumb. So he's all, yeah. I mean,
so
it's possible that I could, it's possible. He gets him to admit that it could have been somebody else.
Yeah.
And then
the lady,
poor Mrs. Riley. He notices the only question we see him ask her in the interview before is, so how many times would you say you've gotten new glasses? That's the only question he asks him. Asks her on she's sitting right on the porch. She should be able to see everything that's going on. She identified the boys. She identified the car. Turns out he does the test. He impeaches her, gets her to admit it's time for a new prescription. I mean, beautifully done, right? Beautifully done. And that's why the lawyers say this is what you need to do. So now this is right now, this should be enough for an acquittal because he's raised probably enough reasonable doubt. But we're in Alabama and we want to get these charges dropped. So the state comes up with an FBI witness in the middle of trial. Now, this is a little problematic because discovery is clearly closed by this point. The expert reports he's not on the witness list, and he tells him, Trotter tells him they're going to have to let it in with this science that I got. Okay, first of all, ridiculous, but let's just, let's put that aside, right? Because we need it's important to kind of break this and say there was a conviction and say, the jury had found that on appeal, you would have this overturned because in no way would a judge allow this witness to come in and then object to Vinny objects to the witness, right? He gives this outstanding objection. We've no time to prepare this witness or have his reports reviewed by our expert. And his objection is overruled. Ridiculous, but you need it for this part of the movie because we need to get Mona Lisa on the stand as the rebuttal witness. So that's the whole vehicle to get her on the stand.
Right.
But so we get the guy from the FBI who's used a Hewlett Packard gas chromatograph to break down. And so Vinny does a nice job of, so it looks like the tires match up, the rubber matches up, everything matches up to the 64 Buick Skylark. And Vinny gets him to admit that all I want to know is the most popular tire, size tire on the defendant's car. Well, he's like, well, yeah.
But two
1964 Buick Skylarks? He's like,
no, all I want to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's raised enough doubt, but yes.
Yeah.
Your thoughts.
But then there's that when he gets Marisa Tomei to on the stand, there's that word voir dire. Is that how you say it? I don't voir dire.
Yes, you said it's
I
pronounced
never
voir
knew
dire.
what that meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yes.
How's it pronounced?
It's voir dire.
Voir dire. Okay.
Yes.
And I never knew what that meant. And I think at some point I looked it up and then just forgot again what it was. So I looked it up last night. And it's such a term that is so locally placed into the trial experience. It's just weird that they have those kind of terms that just say, the process of questioning and selecting jurors in a trial.
Yes,
so,
that's it.
Yeah.
And he says voir dire, which is the way it looks. So I love that. Listen, Your Honor, I could voir dire with the witness. So he mispronounced. Trotter says it correctly. Vinny obviously he's only seen it on paper. He's never actually said the words before because, again, this is his first case.
Yeah. Does that mean you can't answer it?
As it turns out, and here's the thing, where Vinny's got like 3 minutes left before he's got to cross-examine or call his next witness, or else he's looking at the pictures, and it's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
It's been there the whole time. The evidence right there, the tire marks are the evidence that get the 64 Buick Skylark, and they just hadn't seen it all the way up to the nut cutting out of it, man. This is it. And so he pulls Marisa Tomei up there, and this is her "you can't handle the truth" moment. And I can watch this scene when Trotter says he wants to question, he wants to voir dire. He was welcome to voir dire. I'm sure he'll be totally yeah. And so is this the scene that wins Marisa Tomei the Oscar? She's used a lot of. She's got a lot of automobile knowledge. She didn't know what any of this stuff was before. She had to look all this stuff up. Like her, Yeah, everything. Her facial expressions. You just believe that she's not acting, dude. She is Mona Lisa Vito in this. She's so good.
Yeah, I think that's it was kind of planted early in the movie. You just don't realize it, and that's what's great about this movie is that all of these things that Mona Lisa. I mean, it's set up from their introduction, of like these two are mechanics. She works on. She knows everything about cars. Have you ever heard Mud in the Tires? No,
she never heard of it.
And and so it's planted way back in that scene, and then when we get to this scene, and also the pictures when she's showing it. Oh, wow, you did it! You cracked the case.
The case cracker. That's right. Me in the shower.
And it's dog shit. It's dog shit.
What? You lent me your little camera. She took all the evidence.
Yeah, and she did it.
She did it.
When she's on the stand too, that's when it clicks with her. When she's like, does the defense case hold water? No, the defense is wrong. And everybody's like, oh. And she's like, can you say why?
Like, oh no, we've been wrong this whole time, but in a good way.
Yeah.
We were wrong in a good way.
That's when it flips. Yeah. Yes. And it's beauty. It's perfection. I think that is what won her the award, because it was such a display of the character change. Because they're confrontational when she hates him. They're
they're breaking up. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then she realizes, oh, whoa, okay, now I can help, because she's always been asking the whole time, can I help? Can I help? No. She's reading the book. Don't read this anymore, Right. She's always being denied that opportunity to help. And so this is when she helps, and she helps him win the case.
She's right. So. Everything she's doing is right.
Yeah. She's curious. Yeah.
Yes, she's curious. She doesn't have anything else to do. She wants to help. Yeah. Put me to work. He could use the help, but he goes out hunting. She spends the day reading the evidence book.
Yeah.
The procedural
there was a sequel.
Yeah.
There was a sequel planned for this about Vincent Gambini being. Well, there was two. There was one where he goes to Britain and solves the case.
Oh my God!
But then there was one that in 2012. That was going to be the further adventures. So he's in New York, and Mona Lisa's his investigator,
nice.
And they were going to have cases, and they were going to have a book series and all that kind of thing, but it just kind of never came to fruition. But I would love to see that. That would have been funny.
Yeah, that would have been funny.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. So Trotter agrees, because he says, what's she passes the quiz. He asks her a bullshit question. It's a bullshit question. Yeah. It's impossible to answer.
Does that mean you can't answer it?
So she's accepted as a witness, and she won't even look at Vinny, right? She just turns away. And Your Honor, can I treat Miss Vito as a hostile witness? You think I'm hostile now?
You think I'm hostile now?
Later. Yeah. And he's like, you two know each other? He's all, yeah, it's my fiance. And Fred Gwynn is so pleased with himself. The judge is so pleased. He's all, well, that would certainly explain the hostility. And he gives that look. Fred Gwynn is so good as the judge in this. I love him. He was amazing. Yeah. Obviously, Herman Munster. He was the neighbor from Pet Sematary. He's got the biggest head. Or as the British say,
yeah.
Right?
Go ahead.
Well, as the British say, what?
Pet symmetry. That's what they say.
Symmetry. He and Joe Pesci were actually really good friends in this movie, and they play off each other very well.
Yeah.
In real life, they were good friends. I don't know how they'd come across you. I don't know if you know. I don't think they'd been in anything before. They kind of ran in different circles, but they had known each other quite some time before this movie.
Yeah.
Was filmed, and they're obviously can't really get along with one another, and Fred Gwynn plays this very stern judge in the scene where when Vinny knocks over all the chess pieces. I guess wasn't scripted.
Yeah.
So Fred Gwynn's look of just he's sitting there and he's got his mouth hanging open. That was all like the first take, and he's just looking. And they just all, no, leave it in. That's great. He didn't mean to knock all the chess pieces over. It's a nice little touch that they left in there. So let me ask you that. Let me ask you.
Yeah.
The back and forth once Mona Lisa sees it, and she says, "No, the defense is wrong." And Vinny turns back to the camera and he's all, "Are you sure?" This is from earlier in the movie when he's sitting in the hotel room or the motel room and the faucet's dripping. And he's like, "Is that a drip I hear?" She's like, "Yeah." And he's like, Did you turn it off?" She's like, "I did turn it off." "Are you sure?" "I'm positive."
Yeah.
"Well, how could you be so?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Because," and then she gets it. That's when they start bickering.
Yeah.
And she's being cross-examined because a split second before the wrench touched the handle, it was registered by the Department of Weights and Measures and all the. It's the same thing. So we see that at the end, and which rewatching it this week, I was like, you don't put because these two scenes took place an hour and 15 minutes apart from one another. You don't it. Both of them stand alone very, very well, but her courtroom scene, it gives me goosebumps still to this day. It shouldn't. I know every line of this movie, of this scene, these two, and I still get goosebumps watching it. It's so good. It's up there with The Few Good Men, You Can't Handle the Truth scene. It's up there with what's another, not a courtroom scene, but the Scent of a Woman, the "but not a snitch" speech. I mean, it ranks up there in my mind. I don't know if you hold it in that same esteem, but I love it so much.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. And tell me, what other movie references the Department of Weights and Measures? Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Dude, we had when I worked at a retail store, a sporting goods store that everybody knows, they would come in like once every 6 months. And so we had to make sure that everything was priced correctly,
Mhm.
and so that's how I knew Weights and Measures. Had no idea that was a department.
Right. You're like,
Such a
are we
weird
going to
thing.
start bringing up Underwriters Laboratories next? You've seen it on everything. Every door jamb, every hinge has a. You're like, what the hell? No, all this stuff is really worked out.
Yeah.
It was.
Make sure everything's uniform. Yeah.
It was registered to be dead balls accurate. Dead balls accurate. It's an industry term.
Yeah.
So, do you have let's see, what else should we do?
Clay
Roger
Thompson?
Ebert, because of how many, he gave it 2.5 out of 4 stars. So he didn't hate it, but going back to your original point about movies in the theater, what his quote was when he came to reviewing this movie was, "It's kind of a movie home video was invented for. It's not worth the trip to the theater, but slam it into the VCR and you get your rental's worth." That was Roger Ebert's take.
Yeah,
and I think that's what most people did.
Yeah, and I think that was the beauty. I mean, now you look at it and you think, oh yeah, it was maybe oversaturation, but that was the beauty of movies back then. Is that, like I said before, you had movies that were in the theater for 3 or 4 months, maybe even 6 months, depending on how popular it was.
Absolutely.
And you could go and see, but then there would also be new releases, and there would be, I went and saw this movie called Johnny Handsome with Mickey Rourke.
Yes.
Just randomly in a theater, or Mary Riley with Julia Roberts. Just these random movies that, you could go, I want to go see a movie, but there's nothing I really want to see. I guess I'll go see this movie, Johnny Handsome. I don't know. I went and saw this movie, Dead Again. Do you remember that movie?
Yes.
Yeah, we should do that down here actually. But
okay.
I randomly saw that. I didn't see any advertisements for it or trailers or anything. I just went one Saturday and was like, I just want to be at home. Let's see. I'll just go see Dead Again. I don't know what this is about. And it was great. It's one of my favorite movies. But it's it was just that time when you could just kind of go see a movie and be surprised or be disappointed, but you had that choice. And unfortunately, we don't have that choice. I mean, we do, but it's just not the caliber. You can go see a Netflix movie, which they all look kind of the same, and they all look kind of like, in terms of how they're filmed, and or you can go see, like another Spielberg movie or Coppola movie or whatever the case may be. So yeah.
I mean, something that you got to go put your shoes on for. I think you're a little bit more invested in it, and you're probably going to pay more attention to it. Whereas if you're just watching it at home, how easy is it to just keep like going over to picking up your phone and scrolling through a couple things? 'Cause, you can watch it anytime. I think that that we lose something to that and seeing it in the theater. I we don't do it enough, but again, maybe there's just not enough to go see.
Yeah.
Not like we used to have so many choices. It was,
I mean, my God. When I saw the Warriors last week to prepare for our last week's pod, like I didn't pick up my phone once. It was just one of those things that was like, oh wow, I remembered, oh wow, and it was like this thing of, oh, I remember that. Oh yeah, oh it's over. Oh wow, oh oh we're at the end. Holy crap, it's that kind of power that movies used to have on me, and now, I mean, I'm not one to kind of, when I'm watching a movie, I'm like, the phone's down and I don't scroll, but
good for you.
Yeah, there's this thing of like, for the most part, there are some movies that I'll watch, and they're boring, or maybe they're just not hitting me the way they used to or whatever. And I'll get up and I'll scroll to see if the Warrior game is going on at the same time. I'll watch what are the Warriors doing, or baseball, whatever. But for the most part, it's I'm trying to like be invested in, and the movies that come out now, there's I don't know, it's just not that many that stay in theaters, and that I want to get invested in. So
I see.
And like, I think, like Scott said too, on my other podcast, it was like, you get up in age and you start to realize, like, do I want to spend this much energy, watching something that, like, I'm going to check out? And you just become a little more selective, I feel like. And it just, that's how I feel anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. Your Klay Thompson Award winner. Would it be one of the two Utes?
Nice. The stutter. What was his name again? I forget his name. But yeah, he's my Klay Thompson Award winner. I think the scenes that he's in.
Austin Pendleton played attorney John Gibbons.
John Gibbons, that's what it was.
Yeah.
The scenes he's in, it's not just the stuttering part either. It's the people around him. And again, it's those little things that are kind of like throwaway little actions. And when he's walking back to the table, he gives the judge a little wave, like,
right,
not just another day. How's it going? And it's just, I read that the people, because there's a wide shot of him when you can see Pesci and the other two, and Pesci's like, I think he's asleep. He's playing asleep.
He is asleep.
But you see the other guy, the whiny guy, I forget his name, but he's like,
oh yeah,
he's trying not to laugh, and he works it into the scene though, because when he walks back and it changes to a 2-shot of them and he sits down, he's like, and so he plays it off really well. But yeah, that's my Klay Thompson Award winner right there.
I like that, because he comes back to the desk and he's like, hey, it was a tough one. He's all, yes. He's all, so you were not wearing your prescribed glasses and
Those are my reading glasses.
No further questions for you. Oh, unbelievable.
Oh, that's awesome. What about yours?
Boy, oh boy, that's I'm gonna have to give it to Fred Gwynn as Judge Chamberlain Howler on this, because I've always loved this guy. He's just such a unique actor, and just how big he was, and what he was always up for those roles where, I mean, Herman Munster on the Munsters, you couldn't have had anybody else play that role, and that goes all the way back to television, 60s television. All the way up to this. Loved him in Pet Sematary, the original Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
He's got that voice, a very kind of New Englandy type voice, and he's just so love Fred Gwynn. He's definitely missed. He's been gone. Yeah, he passed away right after this movie. So yeah, that's really sad. I think it kind of caught everybody by surprise. I don't think that anybody knew that he was sick at the time. Joe Pesci may have. Win some, lose some.
Cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So good.
Great movie.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think this movie is one that it's a joy to watch. I think if it's a Saturday afternoon and it's raining and you make some soup or whatever it is and you just want to watch some TV, a movie, slap this one in. It's going to be a joyride. It's funny. It's not condescending in any way, even though there is a bit of this mocking this kind of Southern small town thing. It's punching up, I guess, as you would say. And it's just a fun movie. It's fun. I would recommend going to watch this movie anytime.
It's true. It is kind of a role reversal punching up when you think that they're going to go down into Alabama and there's going to be a bunch of backwards, and he's the fish out of water in that he doesn't understand how the law, where he walks into this and he is the one who's the dumbass in this. He's everyone else knows how this works, man. It's a procedure. What are you doing? And he gets thrown in jail every day. Then he has to come in with the suit, the what do you call it? The zoot suit. The brown Dumb and Dumber. He's all, you mocking me? He's all, no.
No,
I'm not mocking you. On drugs? No, I don't take drugs. But yeah, so it's, he's in deep shit. And he realized he can't just go down there and I'm this New York big city Yankee boy. And it turns out he's the one who's got a lot of learning to do. So it is punching up. He went in there thinking, I the cock of the walk. I'm going to go in there and show these guys. He's surprised they even had electricity. And no, they're ready to. They really have courtrooms and everything, guy. So good call.
It's respect for the law, and
yes, exactly. It is a lot of respect for the law. So yeah, great time. It's not safe for work. It is rated R because of how many F-bombs are dropped in this. But other than that, feel free to pop it in. Your kids will like it. I think there's nothing too no nudity. Anyway, yeah. Good times.
Yeah.
So from all of us here at Gonna See My Friends podcast, I'm Toby Ballinger. Follow us, give us a like, subscribe. Give a like and subscribe to the other project, Stephen Scott's other project over there. Whatever this is called. Yeah, good times. It's on the Stegar Network, so you can find us.
Yeah.
Scott was here with us last week. So it's different. It's a different
it's more
subject stuff.
It's more just smaller bites of pop culture and having fun. And we just did this one that just came out yesterday. We drafted movies from 1979, our favorite movies from that year.
Hell yeah.
Just little things like that. We have fun and we talk about it, and it's just more of a hang, or this is a hang too. So it's just a little smaller bite kind of thing. I don't know. So yeah, it's fun. Go check it out.
It is fun. Yeah, it's free.
Yeah.
All right, my man. Thank you. And thanks to everybody else out there. We will, we're getting close to the holiday season. So we're going to we got a couple things in store for, as we wrap up season 3 here of the pod, and we'll see you next week, right?
Yeah.
Will we see?
And then we'll be off for Thanksgiving.
And then we'll be off for Thanksgiving. So yeah, cool. Thanks everybody. Steven.
All right.
Good to see you on another Saturday.
Good to see
you. All right, buddy.
All right, man.
All right, thanks guys.
Later.